had the official debut of Riyadh season yesterday, courtesy of Turkey Al Sheikh. And shout out to my man Marcellus. I was out there in LA. Got to see the card live. But man, what a card last night, man. I can't even really complain. There's a couple fights I was like, but tell you one fight I talked about, man, that I told people to keep their eye on was, and it was the fight outside of the fight we were supposed to get with Tim Tszyu and Virgil Ortiz. The one I was looking forward to the most was Pitbull and Ryo. I told people, man, I'm like, I got a weird feeling about this fight because I just felt Pitbull was he got opportunities that a lot of fighters wouldn't have gotten, that he got, landing that tank fight and on like, kind of 11th hour kind of situation, made the best of that situation. And then granted, like I forgot who he fought, this dude Giovanni on the undercard of the Crawford Spence fight. Didn't look great, but then he gets a shot at Rolly, right? Who a lot of us don't rate Rolly high anyway, and that fight played out exactly how I thought. So here you go, you got Pitbull as a 140-pound champion when he's really a lightweight, right? And Ryo, Jose Valenzuela, like he's coming off a knockout win over Chris Colbert, who was really a 130-pounder fighting at 135 against a kid in Ryo who I felt was a 135-pounder or a 140-pounder fighting at 135. And I told that to people going into this fight. I'm like, keep your eye on this fight. And Ryo, to me, man, had the performance of his career last night. Absolutely. And I had him when the 12th round came. Even going in the 11th round, I was telling people, Pitbull needs a knockout. Like, I don't know who has Pitbull up on the scorecards right now. And when the fight ended, thankfully, the right decision was made. But, we have a new, wow, this title has changed hands, like, how many times already in the last, like, year and a half, meaning the WBA Junior Welterweight Championship, as Jose Valenzuela, Ryo is the new champion, man. That's just crazy. But that's when I called, man. I had a feeling. I had a weird feeling we might get an upset there. Who else? We saw Andy Ruiz and Big Baby Miller. And again, like, that was another situation where it was just like, Andy, you can't half-ass the sport, man. You can't take 2 years off and then expect to come back and be in top shape. But it's just not boxing never treats fighters good in that manner. If you walk away from the sport and come back and you expect to look the same that you did 2 years, it just doesn't happen, man. So and then here's an interesting thing with both David Benavidez and David Morrell. Very interesting, okay? You have two guys that were these monsters at 168, right? They go up to 175, and while, again, did David Morrell win the fight last night? Yeah. Did Benavidez win his fight against Vosnik? Yeah. But they don't look like those monsters, okay? And even with Morrell, more so with Morrell, I should say. And so I kept telling people when they were saying, Benavidez is ducking Morrell, I'm like, I don't think that's the case, guys. I feel Morrell looked pretty green last night, okay? Against a guy that is like an experienced fighter, but it's why I try not to hop off the cliff with these young guys, because I think a lot of times, man, we get lost. Like, we get lost, like, with, the cosmetics of things, right? So I'm telling people, like, just let's see how this materializes. But how Morrell looked last night, he won, but him and Benavidez need more fights at 175. Like, this talk about, like, that they're going to go in there and crush Beterbiev and Bivol, like, we need to pump the brakes with that, okay? We need to pump the brakes with that. But I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so much. Oh, Andy Cruz, man. Andy Cruz, who I'm starting to see is starting to shift his style a little bit, okay? He's the Cuban, you know, I think one of the most highly... I mean, we talk about prospects in boxing, and it's another guy that has like 3 fights in, but he's kind of getting put on the fast track. Look, man, Andy Cruz got hit with some shit last night or yesterday. And the thing I did like, though, is he didn't get flustered. He gathered himself and he made a little adjustment. And the one punch he was trying to land through the course of the fight, it was like a pull counter right, and he finally landed it. And he finished the job. You know, I don't look at it. I get people will look at it from a negative standpoint to say, you know, he ain't. I look at it more from the positive end of, you know, when fighters get in situations where they're under adversity, the way they respond tells a lot of how they're going to look going forward. And I like how Andy Cruz responded. And again, like, I'm not going to I wouldn't throw him in there yet with the tops at 135, man. But, like, he's a good fighter. I just think he just needs more experience. Like with Morrell, and they just need more experience. And you get more rounds, you get more active, and it just is what it is, man. You're gonna develop. I'm trying to think before I get to the obvious meat and potatoes of it all, because I know this is what everybody wants to talk about. But what other fights were going on that I'm like drawing a blank with? There was the 2 heavyweight fights. Oh man, Jared Anderson. Whoo, wow. Oh man. Wow. So I never rated Jared Anderson like really high, because there's just things I saw in his fight game that kind of, again, not trying to hop the fence with certain fighters. But when I saw that they made this fight, I was really like, oh, okay, I guess they're ready for this kind of fight. And I was talking, in my group chat and everything. We were talking, man, and sometimes you can have all the skills in the world, man, but there comes a point where you have to kind of dig deep, and you have to, again, like I just mentioned with Andy Cruz, you got to figure out a way to like get out of, to battle adversity, make adjustments. And McCauley they were comparing him to George Foreman. I don't think he fought like George Foreman, but I see what they're trying to say. He's a big ass dude that he's there. He's not going to move. And it's like, it's just little by little by little by little. And then he'll throw these sneaky uppercuts. And that's what did Jared Anderson in, man. It was that uppercut. That the 2 instances where he really got rocked was an uppercut. That last one was just, I think that last one, he was out on his feet and the ref really could have stopped the fight there. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know going forward with Jared Anderson, man, because look, like, to be honest, we all know he hasn't been like 100% outside the ring as far as just like his focus. He got with Bozy and these, that wasn't Bozy, it was Sugar Hill. And I don't know, man. A lot of it's the fighter, man. A lot of it is the trainers and all that. They can help you so much, but it's the fighter. And I feel it's a mix of, I think they maybe rushed this fight. McCauley's he's a big puncher, man. He's a big puncher, and he was noticeably bigger than Jared Anderson. And anything that Jared Anderson landed on McCauley was like, it just like breezed off of him. So I don't know, man. Like this, I want to see where Jared Anderson is mentally after this fight and what his preparation is going forward, because I feel, you shouldn't write a fighter off after a loss, but I think this was a wake-up call. Like a literal wake-up call for Jared Anderson. So, like I said, lots going on last night, man. For us East Coasters, listen, this fight started way too freaking late. I get Eminem, I get it, but I mean, this joint did not start till like 12:45 Eastern Standard Time, man. And like, I was just like, come on. But anyway, I get it. So off to the meat and potatoes, yo. Terrence Crawford, Israel Madrimov, WBA Junior Welterweight Championship or Junior Middleweight Championship. Look, man, this is easily Crawford's toughest fight that he's had in some years. Like, it's no disputing that, okay? And going into the fight, we knew Madrimov had like a huge amateur pedigree. He's only had like 10 fights. But again, when we bring up the Usyks of the world, the Lomachenkos, and that they were fast-tracked, Madrimov in a lot of ways was kind of being done the same way, even though like at junior middleweight, it's not like it's like filled with talent, you know? But he, on the surface, went up huge in competition, meaning Madrimov, and he showed, man, he is, if not 1A, 1B to Crawford, he's probably the toughest guy in junior middleweight, if you really think about it. And he did a lot of things in there to disrupt Crawford and some of the things that he does. I mean, number one, okay, it's tough to say he was that much bigger than Crawford, but the thing that Crawford didn't do in this fight is he didn't show Madrimov his strength, you know, like how he did in the lighter weights, like where we saw against Errol Spence, who we were being told was the stronger guy. That wasn't the case. In this case, Crawford knew he couldn't do some of the things on the inside that he's normally able to do with guys that he's fought in the past, because Madrimov he was that good and he was that strong. Now, that being said, I personally had Crawford winning. I thought he won the fight. It was really close. I think I think a lot of the story with this fight, man, was just Crawford, I think, had a difficult time figuring out Madrimov's rhythm, you know, because he fights off rhythm. There's fighters that the greats can time you. They can figure, like with Floyd, like what made him really great in his time, like in the later stages as an older fighter, is he took his time early. Like he didn't look like he was doing a lot, but he was doing a lot. And Crawford similarly will do that. He'll see what you got. But after the fourth round, I think he started to notice, like, all right, this is gonna be a difficult night. And Madrimov, he was able to get some shots off of him. He was able to land some right hands. Crawford fought a lot in the southpaw stance, really most of the night. And you know, there's part of me that wonders why he didn't switch to get away from that right hand. But that being said, like it was a super close fight. There were points where Crawford got like the better of Madrimov, and like there were times it looked like he like almost stole rounds. And then Madrimov equally did things that, while in the point of a round where there wasn't a lot going on, Madrimov at times would do things that, like, oh man, he might have stole that. So going into the championship rounds, I gotta be honest, man, like I had Crawford up, but it was getting close. It was, and I just think it's tough. I mean I had the fight like 115, 113 for Crawford. I give that. But listen, man, if some of y'all think like Madrimov pulled this off, and if you want to go by the notion that you know, you have to beat the champion, like, you know what I'm saying, right? I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those close fights. I mean, I feel Crawford did enough to win, but because I think there were points in the fight where Madrimov was feigning, but not doing anything. And at the end of the day, like, you could do all the feigning you want, but if you're not engaging, then the feinting it's like useless energy. And I think early on, Madrimov is doing that, and Crawford was able to get off what he was able to get off. But nevertheless, man, Madrimov is somebody that and me and Train were talking before I got on here, man. Like, Madrimov's a guy that I feel a lot of these guys are gonna stay clear away from, because especially now, like, there's no point for anybody to fight Madrimov. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at guys like like Felix Sturm back then, you know, where Oscar went in there and thinking it was going to be just like, you know, I'll get a world title here against this guy. Felix Sturm's performance in that fight, in a weird, ironic way, like hurt him, because Felix Sturm never got anything like really big after that, so to speak, right? And I fear that for Madrimov. Madrimov had, I think, the best possible night he could have had against Terrence Crawford, who's still great. You know, that's the thing that can't be lost here, man. Like, Crawford's in his 4th division against a guy that, like, on paper we knew was really good, and he didn't fight a low-tier champion. He didn't go to, like, he went straight to what he believed in, what I think maybe a lot of us maybe believe is the best junior middleweight right now in boxing, like with Crawford. So, but I fear he's gonna get like, I don't want to use the term blackball, but I could see where it's gonna be difficult for him to land fights, because who at 154 is gonna hop in there with him again, unless Turki Al-Sheikh throws bread to people to get in there with him. But I don't know, man. Like, that's a tough situation. But Madrimov, he fought a hell of a fight. He showed he is high level. Crawford at the same time showed he's high level. Here's another thing, man. Crawford still has a chin at 154. He got hit with some stuff last night, and he still has a chin at 154, man. So this notion that, like, he's gonna get knocked out here, nah, I don't think that's the case. Before I wrap up, and I know people are gonna want to hop right into this, Canelo Alvarez, right? Should Crawford take this? Should Crawford go into that fight? Man, I've been somebody that has said that we've seen crazier things happen. Again, like, we've seen Manny Pacquiao go up to welterweight way before our time. You know, historically, Henry Armstrong went from featherweight all the way to middleweight, almost won the middleweight championship of the world. We saw Roberto Duran go from lightweight to middleweight and win the middleweight championship of the world. We've seen these things before, okay? But I do question whether Crawford really should stay at 154. And I think there is a road for him to become undisputed at 154 and really call it a career. Now, look, who doesn't want a Canelo payday? You know, who doesn't? But one thing I did notice, that after the fight, they interviewed Bud and they asked him about the Canelo fight and all this stuff, and maybe I didn't see this correctly, but I feel I did. I sensed a little apprehension, maybe, and this is why I brought up in the beginning of the video is I feel a lot of this fight was a dress rehearsal for them to go fight Canelo, and they wanted to see how they were, at least here. Because I think they've been studying, they haven't told us, but I have no doubt that they've been studying Canelo. And I feel that they maybe do still feel that they could beat him, but I feel last night potentially could have been a little bit of a wake-up call on the end of Crawford and team to say, look, let's try to reanalyze this, okay, and see if this is the right approach. He still has a trek again to become undisputed at 154. The WBO had this fight. They put the interim title on the line. I think the reason they put the interim title on the line is because I don't think they made a decision yet with Fundora and with Spence. If they strip him, they're gonna just put the belt around Bud. And then the winner of Fundora Spence and whatever happens with the IBF, you got a trek to undisputed right there. Now, if you're Crawford, do you take that leap to 168? And look, this is no guarantee that Canelo even takes this offer from. And I don't know if you guys saw Turki Al-Sheikh was almost like, it was almost like some WWE shit. He was like, "Hey man, Canelo, take the offer. You got it set. If not, then, you know, but then he's talking about like making a fight with Crawford and Virgil Ortiz, which I'd like to see too. But I don't know, man. I guess like let's get past Canelo Berlanga, which is funny for me to say, like, let's get past it. But I I don't know, man. I don't know if we're gonna get Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. It's a big blockbuster commercial fight, but and look, maybe Canelo comes out and says, "Hey, let's fight." But I think if Crawford had gone in there and knocked out Madrimov and maybe didn't have the difficulty he had, I think maybe there would be more of a call for it. But I think after last night, and it's weird to say because it's like Crawford won and he still looked good. He fought a really good fighter. I think maybe the mindset of the public will probably look at Canelo and Crawford like, I don't know about that. So we'll have to see, man. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you thought of the card. And look, I don't know anybody that was complaining about the card last night as it concerns the matchups that were there, man. I mean, this is all we asked for. We just asked, like, give us fights. Give us the fights we want. Give us attractive looking fights. And for the most part, with the exception of a couple fights, man, like, we had a pretty good card last night, man. I cannot really complain. Outside of it, like, ending late as shit. But other than that, I guess we'll see. We'll see Crawford's next move after what Canelo does with Berlanga, and we'll see if Turki Al-Sheikh really wants to do that fight. And if Canelo looks at it like, all right, well, screw it, like, give me the payday, and we'll go from there. But in any case, let me know in the comment section, like, subscribe, all that. Where do you see Riyahd going? Does Riyahd get a shot at Tank? Because the idea was, I made a video about this. There was a big probability, and they were mentioning it on the telecast as a concern. Like, they were almost acting like Pitbull and Tank 2 is on the table already. So now that Pitbull lost, does Riyahd get that shot? Again, Ryahd's managed by he's advised by Al Heyman, same way. He's under the PBC. Be an easy fight to make, and it would be for a legitimate world title at 140 pounds for Gervonta Davis, and he'd become a 3-division champion and a multi-divisional champion. So that's why it's like, leave that on the table. but that's pretty much it. Enjoy your guys' week. Yeah, man. I guess we'll see what happens with Terrence Crawford if he stays at 154, or he's really gonna take a crack at Canelo. But that's it. Enjoy your guys' week. I'm out.